Hello and welcome. This video I'm doing today is strictly for the Camp Chef grill, the Savannah Stoker on the Camp Chef grill. You can hook the controller up and everything will work right out of the box. I have done extensive testing on my grill, and I have determined that there are a few values that you can adjust to get a little bit better performance, and I'm going to share that with you today, along with a little bit about what a PID is. I'm not going to go into great detail because it's all in the manual. If you don't understand it, feel free to get with me through another means, and I'll try to explain it to you a little bit better. A PID controller is a loop feedback mechanism widely used in automated processes like cruise control in your car. As the name implies, the controller involves three separate constant parameters: the proportional, the integral, and the derivative values. Simply put, these values can be interpreted in the terms of temperature, which is P, depends on the present error. I, the accumulation of past errors, and D is the period of time. Oh, sorry. D is the prediction of future errors and is based on the current rate of change over a period of time. And so, you know, that is basically what the P and the I and the D stands for. You know, proportional, integral, and derivative. Think of it as P is current, I is past, and D is future, prediction of future errors. With that said, I'm going to talk to you about a few things that I've changed over time after doing some pretty extensive testing. I can't guarantee you that these will be 100% the same as if you have another Camp Chef. I do have a 10 gauge heat deflector and 11 gauge drip pan, so it's much heavier than the factory. So I don't know if that will make very much difference at all. I doubt it, but these values should be fairly close. There's really 3 or 4 values that is critical in these controllers. One of them is a value that's called out L, O-U-T capital L. That parameter tells the controller the minimum amount of time to run the auger for every cycle. And there is also another parameter called T, and that is the cycle time. So depending on what you have that set for, the out L will tell the controller, okay, you need to run a minimum of this amount of time for every cycle. And then there is another parameter called out H, O-U-T capital H. That is the maximum amount of time the auger can run. It could be anywhere from 0 to 100%. From the factory, it's set at 80%, and 80% is okay. If you don't do any high temperature cooking, you might want to, I set mine down at 70%. If I'm just doing 225 degree, 250 cooks, it helps a little bit more stable, and it doesn't overshoot as much. So, but if you want to do high temperature cooking, you want to set that up at least at 80%, maybe a little bit higher. Those are a couple of parameters: the cycle time, the out L, and the out H. Now, out L is critical because what that does is that keeps the minimum amount of pellets dropping into your burn pot to help keep the fire burning at all times without being extinguished. If that value is too low, it's going to cause your fire to go out, and you're going to constantly be having, you know, flame outs and reignition and flame outs and reignition. Having that that set perfectly, finding out your minimum value required is critical. And I've done a lot of testing, so I set that value at 18. From the factory, it's set at 15, and I found that the Camp Chef works pretty good in warm, fairly mild warm weather. At 18 is a good place to start with that. If you're in a really cold climate, you might have to go up one or two numbers. Just depends on how your grill works. And the out H, as I said, 70 to 80 is a good value for that. Cycle time 20 is okay. That's the factory. I have mine currently set at 23. So I'm going to show you now how to get into the menu and make these changes. I may have to make a couple of changes along the way because I was doing some stuff. You want to press the set key, press it and hold it in for about 8, maybe 10 seconds until the display, that's supposed to be IGN for ignition. This is supposed to be set for 130. I actually had changed it. So I'm going to set that back to 130 where it's supposed to be. What this value does is it tells what temperature to turn the igniter off during startup. Once your fire gets above 130, it turns the igniter off. Press the set key again. You go to your next parameter. We're going to skip that. That's your auto tune parameter. We won't mess with that right now. These are the PID settings that I currently have right now. This is from my last auto tune, so you can make note of these. You know, if later on, if you do an auto tune, it might give you a different parameter. All right, and here's the cycle time, which is just a small t. As you can see, I've got mine set for 23. This PB1 I've changed. Now every grill is going to be different. Basically, this is the temperature offset. You want to put a good reliable thermometer at your grate temperature and calibrate your thermocouple to where it's, you know, pretty close. For mine, it just happens to be that I had to put it down to -10 to get the display to read corresponding with it. This is the temperature calibration for your food probe, if needed. I've never had to do anything with that. This is the out L, and this value right here I set to 18. Out H, I have this set for 70 or 80, depending on what kind of cooking I'm doing. If I'm doing mostly low cooking, I keep it on 70. This is your Celsius Fahrenheit, and this one we don't need to worry about. This is your fan speed. Right now it's set for 3, which is high. This tells you what temperature that the fan will cut off during shutdown. Once it reaches 120 degrees during shutdown, then the fan will turn off. This is a preset temperature. It tells you during power up, the set temperature during power up. It's set for 180 from the factory, and I don't change it. This resets all your factory values, and that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna cut this video kind of short. I just wanted to, there's several people had asked me what values I'm using. So this is just a starting point for you to have a few values to play around with. The factory values will work. Depending on your climate, you could run into an issue. That's why I recommend putting that out L to 18 versus 15. It's a little bit on the low side for our Camp Chef. Trying to think what else I could cover really quickly. I think that's about it. I will do another video again in the future, maybe going over how to perform the out L adjustment, how to find your minimum temperature. It's actually in the manual. You can read in there. It tells you how to do it, how to do an auto tune. I do my auto tunes at 225 degrees because that's where I cook at most of the time. But anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to comment, like, subscribe. Visit our Facebook group, Savannah Stoker's Users Group. And thank you very much for watching.